Well, good evening and welcome to our March Meet the Author interview. I'm Rick Meredith, the president of Capital Crimes, and we are pleased to have our own Claire M. Johnson with us tonight to talk about her book, City Lights, which was a Lefty finalist at the Left Coast Crime last month. Claire is going to be interviewed by Jennifer Morita. But speaking of Left Coast Crime, it's a hard one to say. What an event and venue we had. I mean, it was a wonderful time. Capital Crimes had over 40 members on panels and 8 members up for lefties, and Katrina McPherson and James Latoile both brought home lefties in their categories, and Robin Bursell, another member, was the guest of honor. So congrats to all. It was a great showing for us and for Capital Crimes. We had a crime time event on Sunday at the Pleasant Pheasant in Woodland. It's under new ownership now. We had a great discussion. I think we enticed 2 potential members, and somehow we ended up at the Blue Note Brewery after, but it's another story.
Yeah, amazing how that happened.
I know, yeah. But before Jennifer takes over, let me run down some upcoming events. We've kind of gone through some of them. On March 21st, our members meeting guest will be forensic psychologist and author Dr. Catherine Ramsland, and she delves into the mind of a murderer. And on April 10th, Chris Drath has arranged an office tour of the Yolo County District Attorney in Woodland. I hope you guys received the email last night. The event is limited to 25 members due to the size of the office. So if you haven't signed up for it, do as fast as you can. And on April 14th, our Meet the Author guest is Brianna Heath to talk about her debut novel, Robbie McNeil's Hit List, we just talked about. And on April 18th, our members meeting guest is Clay Stafford, who is the founder and driving force behind the wonderful Killer Nashville conference. That should be a great talk. Be sure to check our newsletter, the rap sheet, and our website for our full calendar. And before we begin, let me ask you to mute your audio and turn off your video during the presentation. It saves bandwidth and it reduces background noise. Also, if you miss something, we are recording Claire's presentation and it'll be on our YouTube channel about a week. And if you have any questions for Claire, please put them in the chat for our Q&A. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Jennifer, who will then introduce Claire. But former newspaper reporter Jennifer K. Morita believes a good story is like a good mochi, slightly sweet and a nice chew. Her debut mystery, Ghosts of Waikiki, won the 2025 Left Coast Crime Lefty Award and McCavity Award for Best Debut Mystery, and was an Agatha and Anthony Award finalist. Ghosts of Waikiki was released in paperback on February 24th. Jennifer is a writer for the University of Communications at Sacramento State, and she lives in Sacramento with her husband and 2 teenage daughters. And when she's not plotting murder mysteries or pushing Girl Scout cookies, she enjoys reading, experimenting with recipes, Zumba, and hot Hulu. With that, Jennifer, the screen is all yours, and we'll share that with Claire.
Great. Thank you so much, Rick. So this is going to be really fun. I'm really excited about chatting with you, Claire Johnson. So Claire M. Johnson writes historical crime fiction, culinary mysteries, Jane Austen pastiches, and even has a young adult suspense novel under her pen. The former president of the Northern California chapter of Mystery Writers of America, her Fog City Noir mysteries are set in 1930s San Francisco, and they're published by Level Best Books. The first book, Fog City, was nominated for a 2025 Shamus Award for Best First PI Novel from the PI Writers of America, and won the 2025 McCavity Award for Best Historical Mystery. The second book in the series, City Lights, was nominated for the 2026 Lefty Award for Best Historical Mystery. And the third book, The Crookedest Street in the World, will be published in June 2026. And I think you just got the cover art for that.
I did. It's just fabulous.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
Look for it on social media. So this is City Lights. Can you guys see that? Okay. So I wanted to start by talking about your protagonist, Maggie Laurent. Did I say that right? Okay. She's a private detective in 1930 San Francisco who sort of stumbles into being a PI.
Yeah.
And in City Lights, she's trying to keep the agency afloat when her partner moves to Chicago. So what was the inspiration behind this character?
Well, first I want to thank Capital Crimes for letting me blab, Rick and Jennifer. Um, I grew up on Hammett and Chandler with some Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers sprinkled in for fun. And I was intrigued by the young, plucky secretary in the Maltese Falcon. I mean, of course, we all love Sam Spade and Philip Marlowe, but I thought of I was intrigued by the idea of a young woman who I could create a character arc for, because the Philip Marlowe character and say a Sam Spade character, your standard PI, the baggage is all pretty much in the background. They've got problems, they've got memories that keep them attached to their bourbon, but a lot of it is in the background. And I wanted to have a protagonist who was young enough that I could take through 6 books. That's what I'm hoping. I'm working on the 4th book now, but I thought, okay, well, at least I can get 3 books out of this. So I definitely wanted a character arc. I wanted her young enough that she is naive and grows maybe in not such good ways through the course of the series, so that I want to give her room to grow. And initially, when the book in Fox City, when it starts out, she works for a detective who is done wrong by a dame, as what happens all the time. And she is keeping her widowed mother in her house with her salary. She lives with her mother out in the avenues, and she needs this job. And so her boss is, guzzling gin. And so she is trying to find the wayward stepson. She keeps hoping that her boss will sober up. He doesn't sober up until the end of the book, but she wants to solve the crime. And by the end of the Fog City, she discovers that she really likes being on the front lines and she hates typing. Not that this is personal wish fulfillment for me or anything like that, but she just cannot, she's done. And so she wants to make a go of it with the agency, even though she knows that she doesn't have the respect or the chops, but she's got a coterie of people around her who are helping her and sort of her silent partners. And so in City Lights, we have a lot of labor strife, and she is right in there throwing punches. She learns how to box.
I love that.
Well, it's so funny. When you start doing these Google searches, so, I started doing Google searches on how do you box. I've never boxed. I can barely make a fist. And so then, of course, I started getting inundated with advertisements for gyms and worldwide wrestling. And then, of course, I looked at how to fire a gun. I've never fired a gun. So then I started getting all these ads from the NRA, research.
Right. You should talk to Karen Phillips.
I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We've been exchanging boxing. I won't say tips, but yeah. So we've been talking about it. But I wanted to give her a surprise that she could handle herself physically, because I made her very athletic, which is actually wish fulfillment on my part, because I am a total sloth. I would rather sit in the chair with a book.
Me too.
I mean, my mother was like, she would throw me outside. Go outside. You need vitamin D, because I would be in the house reading, for 24/7 basically. So I made her athletic, which is completely unlike me. And I wanted to give her an edge in an environment where she is not welcome and she is not seen as a threat. I basically wanted to make her a threat. I wanted to give her the chops to hold her own in a physical environment. And the only thing I could think of was basically teaching her how to box. So she boxes.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun part of it.
Yeah. And self-defense
Right.
as a woman
Right.
also, just basic self-defense.
Right. So in City Lights, Maggie starts off investigating what seems like a simple case. She's looking into a cab driver's fiance, and she ends up in the middle of labor unrest and city corruption. So there's a lot of politics involved,
Right.
1930s politics. And so I was
Right.
wondering if you could tell me, why you wanted to go that way, and you know, does it feel like it rings true even today?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think you can have any major city in the United States or
Mhm.
even a podunk town in the United States that
That's true.
isn't, uh,
Corrupt.
yes, basically. But I think there are degrees. Of course, some political machines are more corrupt than others. But there is often a kind of a yin and the yang. Like say in New York with the Democrats in Tammany Hall, they did a tremendous amount for the community, while at the same time, they had the police sewn up. So there is there in a corrupt system that works well, you have a lot of give and take. And I set the novels in 1930 because I wanted to have the stock market crash be a backdrop. And then
Mhm.
once I started looking into this, I the whole issue of, we're building up to the 1934 general strike and Harry Bridges and the closing of the waterfronts up and down the West Coast. So
Okay.
I started there. And then once I started looking into the dock strikes that were up and down the coast in the 20s, in 1923, there was a pretty vicious one in San Pedro where they're basically calling out city cops to quell the rioters. And the Klan was involved in that one in 1923, believe it or not.
Mhm.
And so when I started doing that, I started looking into other labor issues. And you had massive, massive cabbie strikes throughout the 19 teens and the 1920s all across the United States. So labor is becoming agitated. And once the stock market crashes, then you're going to have much more agitation. People are starting to sleep on the sidewalk. Herbert Hoover says, this is only going to last a year. Well, it didn't really right itself until we got into World War II and we started hiring people to work in shipyards. So, you've got a tremendous amount of labor unrest leading up to the 1934 general strike in San Francisco. Now, San Francisco has been a Republican town, it's been a Democratic town. The one thing that seems to be universal is that nobody cared about prohibition. People kept drinking. But it was also a town where there was a lot of money to be made. And so I think that, you cannot ignore the haves and the have-nots as the gap widened between the people who didn't lose their shirts in the stock market crash and then the people who were sleeping in Golden Gate Park. And there were quite a few families who ended up, the banks start to foreclose. And so then you have all this tension and you have people who are hungry. So you have the Wobblies who are trying to unionize the docks. You just, you basically have a powder keg, hand me a match, boom. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it just seemed like, to me, sort of a no-brainer. But I'm a political junkie, so
Okay.
I'm going to bring this bias into basically everything that I write because I'm a political junkie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so that kind of brings up another question I had was, you used to write, and maybe you're still writing this as well, the culinary mystery series. Um,
No, I don't write that, but yeah,
okay.
that was actually the impetus behind that was because at the time our governor Pete Wilson was introducing an anti-immigrant bill into California, to be voted on legislature.
Tier
And
seven.
I worked in professional kitchens for 10
Mhm.
years, and all the guys I worked with were working two jobs. They were sending money home. Even if the ones that weren't legal, they were paying Social Security, they were paying their taxes. And it seemed to me to be wrong.
Mhm.
And so that was a lot of the impetus for the culinary mysteries that were, uh, yeah, it was soapboxy, and I admit that, but it was just, I mean, I worked alongside these guys, and it was, you know, to me, it was just wrong. They were working
Mhm.
hard. It was honest labor. Frankly, white people didn't want those jobs. They
Right.
didn't want to. They didn't want to stand at tables rolling croissants for 8 hours a day. And it was partly to give them a voice that at the time was trying to be silenced. And
Mhm.
also that at the time, I was going to write Kitchen Confidential. Anthony
Oh,
Bourdain,
yeah.
Anthony Bourdain beat me to it because of the uh just, I'm not going to say abuse. Working in a kitchen was very exciting at the time. My husband and I, we had this almost idyllic life. We went out to eat all the time. We didn't have children. I mean, I was working, 16 hours a day, but aside from that, it was it was fun. The food scene in the Bay Area was going crazy. There was always a new restaurant to try. We had a bunch of food people as friends. It was kind of magical, but it's also a really tough industry.
Yeah.
And people weren't seeing that. They were seeing a lot of the magic. And I wanted to write books about the pluses and the minuses, the non-magical parts. And I mean, I stopped cooking when I had my daughter, and I knew I couldn't go back to it because it was just too demanding.
Hmm.
Everybody I knew was divorced, and the people who weren't divorced were who had a business together. But everybody I knew was divorced because it's like theater. It's its own little weird little world that, only cooking people understand. You work the same weird hours. There's a lot of alcohol abuse. There's a lot of drug use. Yeah, it is wonderful and also incredibly demanding at the same time. And I don't know how people make a career out of it. Obviously, I thought I'd make a career out of it, but you know, I just couldn't. It's not conducive to families.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you see that there's some stories coming out about Noma?
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that did was I surprised? Look at my face. No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no. And also I didn't bring this up in the books, but the sexual harassment was even worse when I was cooking, of course, which was, in the Jurassic Age. Because, the women were, considered only fit to be pastry chefs. And that changed a little bit. I mean, now the most exciting chefs are actually women, but at the time it was grim.
Mhm.
And the stories about people like Mario Batali and, I mean, those are relatively recent stories. And it is a very, very sexist environment, and no doubt about it. And it just gets exhausting fighting
Yeah.
that all the time. So yeah, the Noma thing, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not surprised. I mean, he was actually hitting people. I never
Yeah.
saw someone get hit, but I saw, people grabbing parts they shouldn't have grabbed and
Mhm.
remarks, the constant remarks, sexist remarks. Yeah. So that was just standard. I mean, and I was the total cliche because I was a pastry chef. So,
So, what made you turn to historical fiction?
I was a history major at Berkeley, and I love history. I read history. I have this ancient blog that nobody reads where I post all these reviews of history books. And I think that, especially in the case of setting my book in 1930 San Francisco, uh, I grew up in the Bay Area, so this is a town that I know. And we would go from where we lived in Oakland to Berkeley, we would go to the city. I mean, it was with a capital C. My mother would wear gloves and a hat, and it was magical. It was really magical. And I wanted to recapture that sense of elegance, and at the same time, maybe kind of pull back the covers a little bit on the abuse that was certainly going on in Chinatown, which basically became a Chinese ghetto. And but it was like going to another country. I mean, at that time when I was a kid, Broadway was the dividing line. North, on the other side of Broadway was Italy. On the other side of Broadway was China.
Mhm.
And then you had this Russian Orthodox enclave out in the avenues, small one. And then you had the Irish, and my mother was Irish. And so, it was like a passport into a very elegant world. And I wanted to try and recapture that because the Summer of Love sort of killed all that. I mean, it was the era of the big department stores at that
Mhm.
time. And, I remember as a kid, one Christmas, my birthday's in December, we went to the city of Paris. It was still the city of Paris then, not Neiman's. And I was allowed to pick one birthday gift. And it was just magical. I mean, it was not a world that my parents could necessarily afford, but it was a world that you could kind of step into and then pretend a little bit, I guess. And then, or we would rough it. We would go down to the wharf and we'd have clam chowder out of sourdough bowls. At that time, San Francisco was still a working wharf. So you could, hear the fishermen yelling at each other in Italian. You could smell the fish off the docks. It was a very different time. I don't know if it was. I'm not going to say it was better because now I think San Francisco in many ways is much more diverse, and it certainly isn't ghettoized like the way it was then,
Mhm.
where really, the avenues were Irish and, Chinatown was Chinese. I mean, you even had that gate, that gate
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
Grant, so I don't know if it was better, but through a kid's eyes, through a
Yeah.
kid's eyes, I wasn't, you don't see behind that cover. You don't flip back that counter pane and see what was happening underneath. And it was beautiful. And so I wanted to try and recapture that, but
Mhm.
also highlight the fact that, she's a woman, she's a young woman, and, in her trajectory, she's expected to get married
Right.
or take the veil. And Irish Catholic families, this is, you got a son who comes to priest, and you've got a daughter who becomes a nun. And like in my aunt's family, three of her sisters became nuns.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of a given. So she had this trajectory laid out for her, and she doesn't want that. And so the job at the PI agency opens a door, and she finds that she can't close that door, even though she she loves her mother, her brother. There's a side of her that loves that life, that cloistered life of the Irish in the avenues, but at the same time, it's very stifling, and
Mhm.
and she just can't close that door anymore. So, so I wanted to bring back a little bit of that magic, going up to windows and pressing your face against the glass. I mean, at least
Yeah.
that's what I did.
I mean, I remember going to San Francisco with my grandparents, and that was
Yeah,
the days of I Magnin and Neiman Marcus.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah.
Well, my cousin got married at she bought her wedding dress at iMagnets,
Oh,
and we went, and the bridal salon, it was something else. I mean, it was, and that's what you did. You got your dress at iMagnets,
yeah.
because where else would you get it? No, you got it at iMagnets. I mean, I really did kind of shed a little bogus tear when iMagnets went out of business, because it was so, it started out as a lingerie shop.
Oh,
Yeah, and all those big department stores were started by immigrants, interestingly
oh.
enough. But iMagnus was originally a lingerie shop, and yeah, and the enormous marble green bathroom that
I was just gonna say,
I know,
I remember the
I
bathrooms.
know.
They were
Yes,
beautiful.
yes, floor to ceiling green marble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the doors were floor to
yeah,
ceiling.
yeah,
So there was a lot of,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yeah. Yeah, it was. I mean, at the time, we were living in a little Secco box, in Albany, that had all the charm of a potato. And, and you go into the city and people are dressed,
Yeah.
they are dressed. And yeah, and it was women in pumps and handbags. They had matching handbags with their shoes, and yeah, I mean, and yes, it was faux on one level. I will certainly grant you that, and I do appreciate the diversity that now uh, encompasses San Francisco in a much more honest way. But
Right.
at the same time,
It's
8-year-old
nice to look
kid,
back. Yeah. So I'm curious if you, when you started out writing the first book, if you knew the trajectory and like what historical parts were going to take place in each book, or
um, some of it ended up leapfrogging off of each other. So again, the whole issue of I knew that I was going to try and incorporate the labor unrest that was going to be leading up to the 1934 general strike.
Mhm.
So I knew that that was going to be a given. What I wasn't so sure about was the third book was a little harder to put together. And then I decided I was going to focus on Chinatown because by that point it had been all the vice had been cleaned up, which just meant it went underground. And I wanted to bring in the issue of a very corrupt government. I did use a lot of names that, if you know the history, I sort of bastardized the names, but you had a change in administration where Sonny Jim Roth ended up going to the governor's seat, and and you had some Rossi take over. So you had someone who was a little more straight-laced. Sonny Jim Roth was a character. He never saw a camera he didn't immediately love. And Sonny Jim and Rossi was a little more circumspect. But so you had a change in transition. You have Chinatown, which has previously seen Tong Wars. So in city, in the crookedest street in the world, I thought, okay, we're going to talk about the government and the power struggles in government. And I also wanted to bring in the issue of faith. Now, I don't have faith. I was raised Catholic, but I am a devout atheist. But I have friends that I absolutely love, and they have very strong faith. So there's an undercurrent arc in all of the books about Maggie's faith. And it's maybe my own personal struggle. I wish I had faith, but I don't have faith. And so I wanted to bring in the issue of the church. And I do not think, I mean, this might, spoiler, the issue of priests molesting young kids, which you just cannot talk about the Catholic Church anymore without bringing this up. It is horrific. And I think that it is I knew that I would deal with the issue of the sexual abuse in the Catholic Church in one of the books, and it happens in the third book. I'm writing the fourth book now, and I have been discovering the most insane history about the Klan in Oakland. If you saw my Instagram, the Klan was very robust in Oakland in the 1920s. Mm-hmm. Go figure. I mean, yeah. I grew up here. I never heard of it. But
Oakland is so diverse. So yeah, it is.
Well, the interesting thing about it was that it wasn't in response to an influx of workers from the South into the shipyards, like in Richmond. Mm-hmm. What it was that you had this unbelievable influx of Germans and Swedish people of German and Swedish extraction fleeing from the 1906 earthquake. And the city government in Oakland up until that time was mainly run by Catholics and Greeks and so it was, and Italians. And they were very, very good at handing out city contracts, because at that time there was no municipal services. They contracted for this stuff, but they weren't so great about seeing that these roads were built. So the Germans and the Swedes wanted roads, and they wanted plumbing, and they wanted city services, and they basically broke the Catholic machine. And part of this Ku Klux Klan thing was, again, ethnic, but also religious. And it coincided with a rise of the Ku Klux Klan throughout the 1920s throughout the United States. Mm. So, and it was apparently, Oakland was like the linchpin of the Klan activity in California. It's like, I never knew this. And I grew up here. So, yeah, so that's going to figure prominently. And also, I've been doing some research on an actual case that a friend of mine, who's the DA he's retired, but he was the DA for Alameda County, on a cold case that was never solved. And I'm using this woman's murder as the backdrop for the fourth book. Oh, wow. And it's really sad story, but she was never an interesting story. Her murder was never found, and pieces of her were found up and down the shoreline. And and there were certainly suspects, people that I think probably did it, but they were never charged. And and Emeryville at that time was basically a hotbed of vice, gambling, prostitution. It was called Butcher Town because there were all these stockyards down there. So fascinating. I love history. I love history.
Well, so that kind of comes and gets into our next question, which is, I know people always like to ask historical writers, fiction writers, do you do your research first and then write? Can you talk a little bit about your process?
I'm not a plotter. I'm sort of a plantser.
Okay.
And I have a beginning, I have a squishy middle, and I never change the end. I start with the end.
Oh.
I start with the end. This is what I want to happen. These are the players. This is the message I want to get across. I always have what I call, and I'm sure you understand this, you're a great writer, that underlying story that has a tremendous impact on what happens, but it's something that the character carries, the baggage. Let's put it that way, the baggage. So I think about what my baggage wants to be. And in Maggie's case, her baggage is she's terrified she's losing her faith, and she finds herself estranged from her family because she doesn't want to be a bride, a nun, or a spinster. And so her family has a really hard time letting her be Maggie. And so that's her baggage that she's carrying throughout this series, and how she comes to terms with it or doesn't necessarily come to terms with it. So that is the basic baggage throughout the series. So that I settled on pretty early on, but I have an end for all the books, a squishy middle, and then I have a beginning that I always hate. I hate my beginnings. I can't stand them. I rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. I don't change anything. I just wordsmith and move paragraphs around and but once I get into the story, I keep that middle pretty firm because I can get off course. I'm one of those, I'm not a plotter, I can get off course. I can find myself wandering around. Oh yeah, there's the Flower Mart down in South San Francisco. Wouldn't that be fun? Well, wait a minute. She's not going to go down the Flower Mart. She doesn't have a car. It's that sort of thing where the middle keeps me anchored. So I ride to the middle and I lay out things, and then I throw bodies in there, one or two, not too many. I mean, these books aren't violent, even though they're noir. They're not violent. And then what I try to do towards the last half or at least third of the book, I try, and we are on the Matterhorn at Disneyland. We are like, so that and if you stay with the books till the middle, then the payoff is going to be in the last half, because then it's like with the pages and things are happening and things are clicking. And I think for me, the biggest hurdle is to make enough things click in the first half that people will keep turning the pages, and then the last half is usually pretty lickety split. At least I hope it is. I mean, that's what I'm writing for. And I know people who are unbelievable plotters. I don't know, what are you, Jennifer, are you a plotter?
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, I veer, but
I'm not surprised. Yeah. But well, because you're organized. I mean, there's a reason why I have blurred out my office, because your office is quite organized and lovely, and my office is a total pig pen.
The other side is a mess. I still have my suitcase from Left Coast.
oh yeah. Okay, now you make me feel better, because I also have my
I always
suitcase.
make sure the background looks good.
But I mean, I not only write for you guys, I write for me. And there's always something that surprises me and that's one of the reasons why I don't plot religiously, because I want to be surprised too.
Yeah.
And, and there's, and you know this, you reach a zone where things do start clicking. You get the voice, you might not know what's going to happen in the next chapter, but you're confident you're going to find it. And then the subconscious takes over. And that's when the surprises start. And, I didn't think that you know, Maggie and O'Malley would have any sort of working relationship. And
Mhm.
now they I'm gonna spoiler alert, in the last book, they're partners. I mean, and that surprised me.
Yeah.
That surprised me.
Yeah.
That surprised me. And yet, if you read through the book, my subconscious was like, okay, okay, nudge, nudge, nudge,
Yeah.
wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And then when I finished the last chapter of Crooked Street, it was like, yeah, of course. And that's the part that I love, because I do also write for myself. And as well as, I mean, I'm not going to keep all these books on a hard drive. I want everyone to read it, but I also do it for myself. And I love that process, that
Betty,
aha.
I'm on Zoom right now. Can I call you back?
So you said something I wanted to circle back to,
Yeah.
that the endings of your books.
Yes.
So do you have endings for book 5 and 6?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
As you're writing, okay, got it.
Yeah, this fourth book is here. I have, gone on for 5 minutes about my process. This fourth book is really, it's been a little different. I know what the ending is, and in fact, I wrote the ending yesterday, and I never do that. I know what the ending is here,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to lose it, and so I wrote the ending, and then I wrote a very, very critical scene the day before that, because I didn't want to lose it, because these were real anchor points in the story.
Yeah.
And now I find myself writing to these two scenes. I mean, the one scene is critical, and it's about getting her from A to B, and then the ending, of course, is the end.
Mhm.
But I had these two images in my mind. I knew what she was going to say, and I had to pound it out, because I thought, okay, I might massage this, but I don't want to lose it, because sometimes, I'll lie in bed and I'll start, thinking about things and plots and what I want to do with the character. And then the next day, it's like, wait a minute, I had a really good idea.
Yes.
What was that? What was
Yeah.
that? So
And you've got to
I
write it
didn't,
down.
yeah. And, my husband and we've been taking yoga for years. And when everybody else is in Shavasana, uh, you know, letting the moment overwhelm them, the peace overwhelm them.
Mhm.
I am in Shavasana fail. I do not.
I'm the same way.
I am. No, I am thinking about the next chapter I'm going to write, and what I wanted to say, and what you're going to wear, and what's the weather going to be like? Is it going to be, what time of year? Have I mentioned the time of year? I'm like, I love my brain. I don't want my brain to, like, kind of go away. So, so this book was a little different. And I'm curious to see what happens with it. It's darker. And I find that books are becoming darker as Maggie becomes more cynical. And I don't think she would think that's a bad thing. I also think she might think it's not such a good thing,
Mhm.
but they're definitely becoming darker, and I don't seem to have any control over that. They're just becoming darker.
It's noir.
Yeah. Well, I think I started out noir light, but now I'm definitely,
Yeah, you're diving into more noir.
yeah. I might have had noir with a small N, and now we're like a noir we're heading towards a noir with a capital N. So, yeah.
So you guys should check out Claire's website, clairemjohnson.com. She has some great resources for historical research. She even has a little tab for Prohibition era cocktails. So
Yeah.
that's a fun thing. Yeah.
That research has been fun. That research has been, and I don't drink. And no, I can't drink. I'm allergic to alcohol. But it has been so much fun. My sister has been sending me cocktail like Satan's Whispers, and I mean all these crazy, crazy
Fancy names.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah, the names are wonderful. Yeah. So yeah, check them out. They're fun if you do drink, but sadly,
I do.
and the glassware. I'm very into glassware, and I
I
just
like
love
glass.
the coupe glasses and the champagne flutes, and yeah, I'm into glasses. But yeah, but it's filled with 7-Up. Sadly.
So can you tell us a little bit about what's next for you? It sounds like your fourth book is coming out.
Yes. I am my the third book, Crookedest Street in the World, is coming out June 3rd from Level Best Books. Thank you, Sean Simmons Riley. And I have a crazy. I have a historical fiction book coming out, first person point of view, from the point of view of Pauline Pfeiffer, Hemingway's second wife. And this isn't a biography so much as a commentary on writing and her marriage to Hemingway and their marriage. And it was vetted by Pauline Pfeiffer's biography, Dr. Ruth Hawkins. And it's a book I've been working on for like 10 years. And I am thrilled that Level Best is publishing this. I don't know why they're publishing it, but yeah. And it's Pauline is a pretty interesting woman. And she, she stole Hemingway away from his first wife. And then Martha Gellhorn, the war journalist, stepped in, walked into Sloppy Joe's on a warm afternoon, and that was it. Hemingway left her for Martha Gellhorn, and how she lost her faith. She was very Catholic. They had a chapel in their house. She came from very wealthy cotton farmer in Piggott, Arkansas. And, faith seems to be a running commentary for me. Anyway, and she's an interesting person, and I'm very glad that this book is going to see the light of day. So that comes out end of June.
Oh, good. Wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
This summer.
Yeah. I have 2 books coming out. Yeah. Isn't that fantastic?
Yes, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why Level Best is publishing this, but I'm not complaining. I did so much research on this. I have more biographies on Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, their wives, the whole expat scene in Paris that any sane person should own. And so I'm thrilled that this actually, even if the audience is like my family, I'm just thrilled for it to see the light of day. So I'm really grateful to them for taking a little chance on me that way. So
well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me a little bit today. This was really fun.
No, you guys, it's the best. Thank you so much for giving me I love talking about books.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, even other people's books. I mean,
yeah,
not just my books, but other people's books too. It's fun. It's fun. Ideas, keep those brains going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we have some questions from the audience.
Should I read this, or is Rick gonna?
I think Chris is going to.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Chris. Okay. Hey, Chris.
Okay. We've got a few. Yes. Some you've already answered, so thank you. One of them was Rick wanted to know if you've ever eaten at Blanche's Cafe or the Galerie de Blanche in Mission Creek.
No, I have heard about Blanche's Cafe. I have never eaten there. Yeah, no, I have not.
Okay.
We'll talk.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing, Brenda asked what the most challenging thing is about writing books in a series.
Setting up scenarios that you can leap into the next book. Putting in even minor characters or minor scenes, things that you can extrapolate into the next book. And that takes some forethought. And you don't really even need to know what the second book is about. You just need to know, okay, I need a surly cop. I have a surly cop in my book. I'm going to bring that surly cop back. Or I really love Ocean Beach. Talk about going to Ocean Beach, and there used to be a roller coaster there, the Big Dipper, and talk about maybe set a scene at the Big Dipper. So think about characters and scenes, familiar scenes that can translate into a next book. And you have to do that beforehand. Otherwise, you're going to, especially since part of the goal for writing a series is that you can read each book on its own, but it is probably an enhanced experience if you have something else to look back to. So it's about creating continuity between location and characterization. And I mean, I mean, I threw in at the last minute a friend of Maggie's who becomes a nun. Now this character came out of nowhere, but I thought, okay, I might need a nun. So I mean, nuns were in my life, and I thought, okay, she's Irish Catholic. Of course she has nuns in her life. So I threw in a nun, and that she became a pivotal character in the next book. So it is about creating continuity and thinking, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with this character or this scene, but I'm going to do something with it, even if it's just minor. They act as a bridge. Find your bridge. Find your bridge.
That's a good point. Let's see. Dover wanted to know if anything in your books takes place at the Cliff House.
Lots takes place at the Cliff House. Yeah, I love the Cliff House. Yeah, I mean, and it has a fascinating history. It burned down like 1,000 times. And yes, things happen at the Cliff House. Maggie has breakfast there, even though they don't serve breakfast, but she has breakfast there. And yeah, it's my daughter's wedding reception was there. So Cliff House.
That's memories. Yeah.
But
Okay.
also Ocean Beach. I mean, we spent a lot of time in Ocean Beach when I was a kid, and the zoo.
Yeah.
And the zoo. So, that whole stretch is very familiar to me.
Well, she also asked, who do you think is the best chef in the city?
Oh, wow. I think Nancy Oakes is pretty damn fine. She runs Boulevard Restaurant, and yeah, she's pretty good. I mean, there are other people that I think she's not flashy. There are other people who like, George Maroney and all these other people. And, but Nancy Oakes is the Boulevard person she's very solid, very classic. And the restaurant is just beautiful. It's a beautiful place to eat.
Thank you. Well, Dover had one more comment.
Sure.
Saying, I threw in a nun would make a great mystery title.
I think I agree with you completely.
Thank you, Dover.
Yeah, I threw in a nun.
Yeah. Rick wants to know whether you've ever seen a Nick and Nora glass.
No. Okay. Google foo. I don't know. I love the Thin Man thing. Well, I'm a Hammett person, right? I love Nick and Nora Charles. I love Nora Charles. I mean, who doesn't love Nora Charles? She's kick-ass. She is just
their own martini glass.
Oh, they have their own martini glass. Oh, cool.
I mean, she gives it right back to him, and she owns every scene she's in. I also love Myrna Loy. Myrna Loy is fantastic. So, yeah.
Well, I'll be looking for that martini glass.
I know, yeah.
Rick probably has it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dwight says San Francisco is so iconic, especially in crime fiction. How do you avoid making the city a cliche?
Because I think it was always a city that was trying to reinvent itself. And I mean, if LA was the city of dreams and Hollywood, San Francisco is about making money. and so the city changed to a certain extent to meet different needs. And then, of course, like I said, in 1967, with the Summer of Love, everything completely changed. And I mean, I like the cliche. I mean, one of the things in my writing that I always have to look for is a cliche. I love cliches. I mean, we all understand cliches. And so then when people say, oh, don't write cliches, I'm like, well, why not? Why can't we write cliches? So, I mean, I think that because, and part of it, I think is also because it's a coastal city. So you have this constant influx of immigrants. I mean, if you do study the neighborhoods in San Francisco, they're constantly churning over and changing. I mean, the Mission District used to be Irish and German immigrants. Now it's Hispanics. So the neighborhoods themselves are constantly turning over, and as new immigrants moved in, I mean, the Lincoln Golf Course used to be a cemetery, and then they moved all those bodies out to Colma because they wanted, I mean, you just have this constant change, and I think it's a city that's not afraid of change. Say, like, I mean, you walk in through New Orleans, and it's 1898,
Mhm.
And in San Francisco, you've got the Pyramid Building. You've got change. I don't think San Franciscans are afraid of change. And I don't know how well they embrace it, but they don't mind it, and some of it they do embrace. So I think it's a little bit different. And I think being on a coast is one of the major reasons why, because we just have, we have ships coming in with new ideas, new people, so I think that makes a big difference.
I've got one more question here, unless anybody else wants to put it in the chat. While you're researching, because I know you love history,
Too.
what have you found that really surprised you?
The Klan thing really surprised me. The Klan thing. Yeah. I mean, uh, I found that a little shocking in California, but then given a current political climate, I shouldn't find it shocking at all. And yeah, it just surprised me. There are pictures of, Klan rallies in Oakland, and that did shock me. And I'm like, wow, this has got to go in a book. And it is going into a book. And just just such a ugly avatar of racial and religious intolerance. So I would say the whole issue of the Klan in the 1920s in California, I found shocking. So not a nice shock. I wish it was a nice shock, but then the thing about I Manning's being originally a lingerie shop was a nice shock. But the Klan, not so nice. Yeah,
Not so nice.
not so nice. Yeah.
Well, I
I
think
think is that
that's
it?
what we got. Jennifer, do you have anything else?
Nope.
Nope. Rick?
No,
It's
we're done on time again. That's perfect.
If I
Well,
if I could just make one plug, that if you really want to go back in time, go have lunch or dinner at John's Grill. It has not changed
Right.
at all. And
Yeah.
it, you still have the waiters with their aprons down to their toes, and MWA used to have meetings there, and I just loved it. I just loved having meetings there with the white tablecloths, and it's very old San Francisco. That has not changed.
Well, they do preserve the Victorians, the painted
They
lanterns.
do.
They do kind of, that's in some of the neighborhoods they're preserving, but downtown, in the end.
Yeah. That has changed a lot. But like I said, I mean, change is both good and bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't cherry pick. So
it's been a notorious city from the gold rush to the Barbary Coast.
yeah.
I mean, that's it. It's a coastal, it's Shanghai started there, right?
Yes.
Shanghaiing. So,
Yeah. I think it's just, and just, I mean, as a chef, the food,
yeah.
the food. Yeah.
Well,
What's
we're
your
going to
favorite
talk
thing?
offline, Claire, because I could talk to you for hours about San Francisco because my wife grew up there and her family
Yeah.
loved the whole area. Yeah. So, but hey,
Great
thank you
town.
so much for coming and joining us tonight. It was wonderful. And
It was really fun. Thank you, Claire.
Always, you're
Thank you.
excellent.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I do appreciate it.
And please check your the rap sheet and the website for the latest our schedule and what's coming up, because I can't remember what it was. I had it somewhere. And And also, if you miss something here, that we'll have this recorded and it'll be on our YouTube channel within about a week, depending on how
Perfect.
fast Dwight and I can get it done. That depends on Martina.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks everybody for
Everyone, take care. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.